Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Paris-based, Kansas City-bred jazz guitarist Michael McClintock on the 2025 album Here and There. We initially spoke with Michael back in 2021 as he was living in Kansas City while COVID roared. 2 years ago, he moved to Paris, France at the urging of his wife, and now he has a brand new album and a new lease on life. This album is full of all original compositions for the first time, blending Brazilian, Cuban, and jazz influences. We cover this new project, living in Europe, creativity, modern times, and so much more. Dig this interview.
Okay, hello.
Michael, what's up, man?
Hey, I'm doing all right. How are you?
Everything's good. Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for such a kind note. I loved our interview. I'm so glad that we're reconnecting.
Oh, man, thank you so much for taking the time.
So a lot has happened. The last time we interviewed was in 2021. We were, just figuring out this pandemic. The world was in a weird place. Not that it's any weirder now, or it's just as weird. But
yeah.
So ultimately, you have moved on to Paris.
Yes.
And I'm curious, what brought that move about, leaving Kansas City for Paris? How did that happen?
As usual, my wife is always encouraging me and nudging me forward. And she's from Cuba, born and raised. And we agreed to live together in the United States, and she was in her mid-30s when she came over, and we were together for 8 years in Kansas City. We're still together, of course, and over those 8 years, she had just kind of wanted to maybe experience what it was like living somewhere else, and I had been opening up to that idea. So in 2021, we decided to take a long vacation in Paris. I will add that she speaks French, and that helps quite a bit. She had studied French for like 8 years during her 20s in Havana. And so I think she'd always had a pretty deep interest in French culture and the language. So we came over, and I brought my guitar. And I had a few connections to some musicians here, and just immediately fell in love with the environment in the city. It's a really, really beautiful town. And after a week of just kind of walking around and getting to know the place, I started going to jam sessions. Really, really liked the vibe. I thought, well, if this is something you want to do, I was speaking with my wife, Dalida, and she said, let's give it a shot. I said, okay, let's give it a shot. And we applied for a visa. And I do want to give a huge thanks to Herman Mahari, Kansas City trumpets, just tremendous guy, virtuoso. And he was very helpful in how to put the dossier, as we call it, together, the application and all the necessary paperwork that goes along with that. And the French government said yes, and so we just said, you know what, let's go for it. So we've been here for almost 2 years exactly, and it was just kind of her pushing me along and say, let's try something new. And I said, okay, let's give it a shot. I've been in Kansas City for 20 years, loved every minute of it, miss the friends, the vibe, but I was opening up to trying someplace different. I was just a very Midwest guy my whole life, and I said, why not? Let's give it a shot.
So I flew to Paris on September 4th, 2001, and little did I know that about 7 days later, one of the biggest moments of our collective lives was going to happen. I ended up making it down to Venice, and I was in the back of a water taxi when 9/11 happened. But I remember my time in that pre-9/11 world of going into Paris, and I had never seen human beings, white, black, different nationalities, mingle in such a harmonious way. And that immediately came out to me in Paris. Do you feel a different level of harmony and coexisting being there than what you were used to in America and Kansas City?
That's a very good question. Yeah, I suppose so. In a way that you have more access to different cultures. obviously it's some people consider it the capital of Europe, and there's a long history of French and African relations, and so you have pretty much immediate access to a vast amount of African cultures, but there's also quite a few Cubans here. I have a pretty deep connection to Cuban music, and so I would say yes. And in general, there's just more of cultural access, and Kansas City never had a lack of it, but it's just it's a denser population here, so I feel like that, and maybe because since I've been here for 2 years, it's kind of becoming just part of the everyday thing that you get used to that. So I haven't, I guess I really haven't given it a deep amount of thought, but I mean, there's a deep access to everything, maybe a little bit like New York City in that manner.
Yeah, and you just confirmed what I was thinking because there is access to different regions of the country that will come into Paris. Plus, Paris is such a cosmopolitan urban hub in Europe too. So I'm curious, the one thing about Paris is that, as you very well know, a lot of those musicians in the real heyday of the 40s, 50s, and 60s just lauded going to Paris and how wonderful it was. And part of it was that racial tensions were different in Europe. And, a lot of people like Dexter came over and there was different things that materialized. But in general, there is a hum of artistic energy that goes on in certain towns like New York and Paris and London. So my question to you is this: how much of living in Paris has shaped and changed or evolved your sound that is lending to your new album here and there?
You know, maybe not as much as some might think. Um, what's happened so far since I've been here is I've connected with quite a few really fantastic vocalists, jazz vocalists in specific. And what seems to be in vogue at the moment for a lot of what I've been lucky enough to be a part of is playing with just a guitar and a vocalist. And so, because of that, I've really had to do some homework. It's one thing I never did much in Kansas City. I was always working with two guitars and a vocalist, or guitar, piano, and vocals, or guitar, bass, and vocals. And so I never really had to carry the whole load. And so, one thing that's definitely gotten a workout is getting better at just being able to take a solo unaccompanied. And so I've spent quite a bit of time listening to Joe Pass and Ella Fitzgerald. And I've really tried to get better as fast as possible in that area of jazz music, because I self-admittedly was extremely weak. I just never done it. And so obviously you move to a new town or a new part of the world, and you're lucky enough to get a call and they say, this is the gig. I was like, yeah, let's sign me up. So, but because of that, there were a couple of new compositions on the album. One I wrote specifically for my mom called Mereda, and it was inspired by just some classic jazz ballad vibes, and I feel pretty good about that composition. And I would attribute some of that vibe of that song to my time here in Paris. Yeah, just kind of having to spend more time with singers, and just having to kind of continue to get some more of the traditional jazz vocabulary under my fingers. So there's some, but more of the album is just kind of a culmination of where I was before we left Kansas City. I would say that.
And you know what the interesting thing is, when I hop in and I talk to musicians about the album, it's been made, it's been processed and engineered and packaged, and then, which is months and months in the rearview mirror. But I would think, as you just said, part of this was kind of encapsulating that time before you left Kansas City. This release being in your new home of Paris has to feel refreshing, has to feel like you're fully grasping this new, this new chapter of your professional music career.
Yeah, 100%. I'll go back and give my wife a little bit more credit because she was always pushing me to also compose before we had gotten together. I've never composed, and she was always nudging me forward and nudging me forward to compose. And releasing this full album of all original material was more inspirational than I ever thought it would be. I've already composed some new songs, and I'm really in the mood to keep going. And I'm going to say it out loud on an interview that I have a goal to have my second all original next year. The timing is right, the energy is right, and I need to just keep moving. So I'm really more motivated than I've ever been to continue perfecting the craft. I'm definitely new to the composition game, and I'm learning some new things every day. And but no, the inspiration is quite high, and I'm going to give credit to Paris for some of that inspiration. It's a different world, it's a different place, and it's a pretty cool feeling to be able to say, well, you know what? Why don't we go have a picnic at Versailles today and go into the gardens and enjoy that space and enjoy that moment. And that has given me more inspiration and creativity than I ever thought it would. And it doesn't even have to be that grandiose. I mean, there's a beautiful park just up the street from where we are here in Boulogne-Billancourt. It's just a suburb right outside of Paris. And for some reason, that park gives me a lot of inspiration. And I can take my guitar up there and just kind of noodle around for a couple of hours and take a few notes. And so that's, yeah. So the transition from the States to here is, it's been a slow burn. It's been 2 years, and it's been a very slow burn, but it's starting to show some fruit. And I'm really more motivated than I've been in quite a long time.
So what are you hoping the listener gets from this album?
Can I be extremely simple and just say that they like it?
Yeah, totally.
I always try to not stick my foot in my mouth in interviews, but it's that, man, if anything, it's like, well, at least that nylon string guitar in the back, at least it's clear. It's not too muddy. I can hear it. It's balanced. Because I mixed it. I ended up recording and mixing it myself. I did some recording in Kansas City back in our old home, and I had a little studio that was better than I ever imagined. I'd done a little sound treatment in the room, and it was actually a great room to record acoustic instruments. And then I had recorded some of the same acoustic guitar here in my apartment, and then I recorded the majority of the electric guitar work here in my apartment as well. And it would be nice if people were just to be like, that's not a bad effort, that's not a bad effort. And then just to see, I'm very interested in seeing in what pieces resonate with people, because it's kind of I'm kind of a schizophrenic musician. I've got some Brazilian stuff. I've got a Cuban thing. I've got some jazz stuff. And then I've got some other compositions that I don't really know what they are. They're classical, I suppose. The very first track is called Waiting for You, and it's a classical guitar and a steel string acoustic guitar. There's no improvisation on that composition. It's just a piece. And I'm kind of curious what people would classify that, because at this point in time, I don't know myself. And there's two other compositions on the album that are like that are just there's no improvisation. They're just pieces. The final composition, Adieu, is one of those as well. It's just a 3-minute piece, no improvisation at all. And so it's and so I hope people like it. B, I hope people are at least accepting of the tonal quality of the album. And C, I'm actually looking for feedback myself, which might sound kind of odd, but it's just like, what would you classify this group? What would you classify this group? You know, because I'm still kind of trying to find my own voice. Yeah, it's been a process.
For sure. So if anyone wants to pick up a physical copy, is Bandcamp the best way?
Bandcamp would be the best way. You can get a digital download. If I get a few more requests, I will print some CDs. I've had 2 people say, hey, where can I get a physical CD? And I said, I haven't done it. My previous album I did with my Cuban band, Cubanisms, in 2019 was a learning experience. I printed 1,000 for that project and still have a good amount in my mom's basement. And so I hesitated to do any physical pressing on this one. But if I get a few requests, I think I can do 100 and would be more than happy to get those mailed out to anybody who would like that. But at this point in time, Bandcamp, or if you go to CD Baby and under my profile, Michael McClintock, you can also do a digital download there as well.
Wonderful. Michael, I'm so glad that we reconvened. Congratulations on the move, the new album, this new chapter in your life, and hopefully we catch up down the road.
Absolutely. I really appreciate your time, Joe.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players and minds in Paris, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Michael for coming on back by the show. If you want to hear more Neon Jazz interviews, you can find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Subscribe to us at YouTube, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to theneonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends. Joe Domino here, host of KC's Neon Jazz Radio. On International Jazz Day, April 30th, join us at the Music Hall in downtown Kansas City for the event of the year, 90 Years of Count Basie's Swing. At 7 p.m., the world-famous Count Basie Orchestra takes the stage. From 5 to 7 p.m., it's a VIP reception with jazz legends and honorees. Finally, from 10 p.m. to 1 a.m., join the after-party jam session at Lonnie's Reno Club inside the Ambassador Hotel. Tickets are moving fast. Get yours now at kccreativecity.com/count-basie. This event is part of International Jazz Day, supported by the UNESCO Creative Cities Network, with Kansas City proudly standing as America's only creative city of music. I'll see you there, Kansas City.